I'm happy to announce Adina Popescu, and she will talk about her mixed reality simulations to empower action. And she's really focused in storytelling and simulations, and she works closely with Brad Leonard and Scott Ross from Virtuosity Entertainment. And I'm looking forward to your talk.
Thank you so much. Hi. Wow, I thought nobody would be here at 12. Okay. Well, I have a company for virtual and augmented realities called Snowblack. And I've been in this space for quite a while, since 2012, and I was living in New York back then, and I was studying philosophy. And as a philosopher, I was looking at military technology and how it changes our social values once it becomes a mass product. And that is true, that holds true for every technology, every medium. It formats the way we communicate to each other, the way we actually build models of reality. And now I hope this works. So especially when it comes to immersive technologies and virtual reality, there are certain, especially when it comes to ephemeral formations like music, data, metadata, how do we give them a body? How do we represent them? With music, it makes sense, right? I mean, music is a spatial phenomenon. It's waves going through space. It's bouncing off walls. It's reverberations. But we notate it in two-dimensional linear ways. So the first thing when Oculus was still a Kickstarter project is I got into visualizing music and trying to understand how I can actually compose music in space and arrange it and touch it and interact with it. But then I looked at larger data sets, right? Because music is stored in data, so that's easy. You basically visualize data. There's actually a great company in LA called Red Pill VR, which has created a software, a plugin for Unreal that is a great real-time visualization of music. So if you move on to larger data sets, networks, for example, environmental footprints, I realized more and more that, as the speaker before me said, we're dealing with so much data and metadata that if we could visualize that data, would we have a relationship to it? Could I visualize energy? Could I visualize my metadata that I'm producing every day when using digital technologies? Would that change my relationship to privacy and the ownership that I have to that data? So let me go on. So I started looking at data visualizations, and there's 82 talks on data visualization only on TED. And what they do is they use complex mathematical algorithms in order to place data in space, sonically, visually, in order for us to create a relationship to that data, that immense footprint that we're creating every day. But when I see those visualizations, I'm realizing that there's one thing missing. Oh, and I still have, okay. When I see those visualizations, I see that there's one thing missing, and that's me in it. That's me trying to understand how I can change that interpretation of reality. And this is maybe why immersive technologies is really interesting here, and why VR is interesting, is because it allows me to put myself into the picture, to actually enter this and to become part of that image. And maybe instead of trying to visualize data, we should rather visualize our impact and how we can actually change things when we're moving into that space. Damn it. So if data is an attempt to reflect on human behavior, in which we're trying to understand how we can change our behavior as a culture, right? I mean, what is the footprint, or what is the consequences of my consumer behavior every day, 100,000 miles away from here? What are the consequences of us as a culture? And we capture it in data. Then maybe turning it around and visualizing our impact instead, and thinking about how data can help us would be a more useful way to do. So I do believe that immersive technologies, especially VR, can change and shift the top-down paradigm that of media landscape as it is today. Because right now, what we do is we sit down, we sit on a couch, and we're being fed this information and those representations of reality without us being able to change it. So we all know this picture, of course. We're in it. It's Earth. And this was taken in 1968 on the Apollo 8, when the first astronauts went to space. And they thought that they were going to the black space, to the stars. But then what happened is they turned around and they took that picture. And that picture basically created a massive self-awareness of us as a global society. And this is 50 years ago. And Edgar Mitchell, who was on the space mission, said that they fell all into a trance when they saw Earth, and they felt this feeling of interconnectedness. And he's been researching that feeling ever since. So this image has been, copied and reproduced 1 trillion times, and it has lost its power because it's a moment in time. So what's missing is that Earth is actually a dynamic model. So this is a project I just started, and this is why this is a bit of a test ground, because we're very early on in it. And it's a platform, and the platform is called Earth. And it's a virtual reality platform in which we are creating a 3D simulation of Earth, partnering with institutions like NASA and environmental institutions, feeding real-time data, satellite footage on climate change data, on environmental data. The challenge here is to say, and this is also really relates to the first talk, how can we get out of that frustrating process of regulators, especially in the US, not acknowledging information. And in general, we're facing a problem right now in the impact world, that people see information, the information is there, and yet we don't relate to it. It's a strange phenomenon. It's like knowledge transfer. It's almost like people need to see things in order to believe that they're real. So I thought, okay, then let's build Earth, and let's put that data in there, and starting simulations. So imagine holding the Earth in your hands, your past, your future, and how you influence it. So there's going to be a real-time stream of environmental data visualized, and it allows for us to translate abstract data into something that we can actually not only feel and see, but that we can also interact with. There will be many portals to access Earth, but at its basis, it's going to be on a web browser. And there's something called WebVR, which I really like, because it turns your screen into a 3D vision, so you don't actually need to have a headset at home in order to enter Earth. However, if you have one, you'll have more fun in it. And there's going to be, everything from HTC Vive to Oculus, collaborations with VR arcades in Las Vegas. There's so many in Korea. It's just insane. Especially in China, WeChat just opened a portal into VR, into HTC Vive. That's like 1 billion people basically marching right through. And what Earth is, although it's designed in a game engine in Unreal, it's going to mix a lot of different technological languages, so it is actually going to feel photorealistic. It's not going to look like a game, although there will be gamification in there. But the first step is to actually allow everybody to visit their home and to go in there and to voice with gesture and voice recognition. You can go in there and actually go to your home place and scroll into the future, 10 years, 20 years, and to see how your place and your home is going to be affected right now as things are on climate change. Oh, jet streams, rising sea levels. And the reason why I'm really interested in building something like that is that I believe in an overview effect. Right now, there's this feeling that, do I give money to this NGO, and how is the money flow? Do I trust the money flow? Is it really going where it needs to go? I don't know yet, and I cannot also not read that in the information, but if I have an overview effect, and if I look at things and I understand, okay, this problem is related to that problem, and it's all a interconnected organism that we need to understand, then I will maybe be able to understand better also how the money flows and how I can impact. But even more so, every time in my thought process about virtual reality is that I never wanted to create a second life. I was never interested in creating a metaverse in which you go in and you just stay there. I was always trying to understand, how does a simulation help understand better the real world? And I would like in Earth our actions in Earth, in the simulation, to have a real world impact. So I started a partnership, several partnerships actually. So one partner is Alex McDowell. He designed Minority Report back then, and he then designed also Iron Man and other films. But he has a great institute that's called the World Building Institute, in which they're trying to see how UX design can be impactful in the future. Another collaboration I'm starting is with Lykke, and it's a cryptocurrency wallet. And what they have is, they run on Ethereum, and what they have is they have a marketplace in which they trade tokens that are equated to nature, like to natural resources. For example, there's a coin that's called Tree, and it's backed by one tree, by one mangrove tree. So imagine an action in Earth in which basically through social media you can incentivize a trading place in which money goes directed to the places that it needs to go to, and to have a more democratic peer-to-peer platform in which you can interact and protect those environments that you want to protect without going through regulators or NGOs. I don't know, how am I on time? Okay. So the idea on Earth, or in Earth, is of course to work with networks. And in the end, you will see that mangrove tree. It's also that's still in a game engine. What we're going to work with is photogrammetry, which is a great technology to capture photorealistic footage on the ground. So you will be actually able to create real estate in Earth and walk through it and experience it. But I'd rather open up to discussion now if there's 5 minutes left. Thank you so much.